So we're going to start thinking about books first. So obviously when books get wet, that can be quite serious because you've got a large amount of water, you've probably got animal glue, you've got textile or leather covers, so there's a lot of organic material there that can become wet. You've got and then become mouldy. You've also got the likelihood of it being dirty. Then you've also got print inside, and that is something that when it gets wet is likely to run. So these are quite a vulnerable object in the event of flood or of course fire, because it's organic, it's combustible. So when you're handling a book in a salvage situation, you want to make sure that you are wearing nitrile gloves or vinyl gloves to protect yourself as well as to protect the object, because especially if there's water or soot, there's the likelihood of contamination, especially if there's any sewage or anything like that, or if it's like a toilet leaking. So this is to protect you as well as the object. And then if you are needing to rescue a load of books, then you will take a crate such as this one here, £2, a bargain, and you can just place them in the box. You can hold them in piles if they're not wet, of up to basically a forefinger and thumb span, like this. Place them in a box, and then you get them out of the space and into the triage area. A sling bag is like an IKEA bag or something like that, so it doesn't have to be a crate. There are other options. It just needs to be something that's fairly strong and sturdy and able to take the weight of books. Also, if you've got any further information like shelf lists or anything like that, which I think we probably do in the, we might have something like that in the Museum of Childhood bookstore, then all that information should be staying with the collection. Yeah, any relevant information should stay with the object. Then you could also think about using a book chute or a line for first floor library. So a book chute is basically a large slippery bit of fabric or other material like a plastic or a tarp, that could be physically a chute like a tube, or it could just be a long length of fabric that is held in a sort of U position, so the books can literally be slid down into safety and caught at the bottom, either packed together in boxes, or if they're strong enough they could be sent down on their own. Not necessarily that advisable for paperback books, but some hardback books would be strong enough to tolerate that. And then also initially you want to be separating anything that's wet, dry or damp, and that's not scientific. It's like, is this really wet? Is it just a little bit damp, like say just edges and a few corners a bit wet, or is it dry? So it's not particularly complicated to sort of work those things out. You do need to be sure that you're not overfilling anything that you're carrying books in, simply because books, as I say, can be very heavy. You probably know that from moving house, for example. And also being aware that you don't want to allow mold growth to happen, because then that can be quite significant damage, and damage that's a lot harder to treat in reverse. And that can be caused by lots of wet books being stored together, not being able to dry out, and also the temperature being conducive to mold growth. So we want to try and get books dry as quickly as we can, while still not drying them too fast, if that makes sense. So in terms of order of removal, obviously this will be dictated by things like snatch lists, priority object lists that we have in our emergency plans that we looked at last time. The priority objects should be taken out first, or books that are at greatest risk. This is true for most things. Vellum should come out first, because vellum is far more susceptible to environmental changes and to water damage. And also, if there is rising water, then take books from the bottom shelf first and work your way up. If the bottom shelf is already sitting in water, then try and save the ones that are higher up. It's just common sense. And obviously, if there are any unstable shelves, then you need to protect yourself. If the books are okay and you just want to, you just need to protect them in situ, then often what you can do is just cover the front or the tops of the books with polythene, normally the front, and you can usually tuck polythene in at the top, or possibly pin pinned to the top edge of a bookshelf. Books are obviously quite a labour-intensive thing to get out because there's normally quite a lot of them in one place. So sometimes protecting them in situ rather than getting them out, depending on what the risk is also a really sensible option. So we're going to look at some treatment options now. So yes, as I said, we're going to separate books into 3 categories: wet, damp and dry. When books are dry, then you're going to take them to a dry place and keep them dry. We want to avoid any damage just by moving them somewhere else. And if needed, if they're a little bit dirty, which could potentially happen from soot damage or from being moved, then we need to dust them gently. So dusting a book is done like this. So you hold the book between forefinger and thumb, and you take a fan movement. Wow, there is actually quite a lot of dust coming off this. So fan movement like this, the same on the back. Hope everyone can see that. Then along the spine. And then you're still holding it firmly, then you can do along it. There's so much dust on this. I really didn't read it that long ago. This was just in my living room. So you can see how much dust can build up, possibly, if you're seeing the billows of dust. You might also be finding the need to dust some of the pages inside. If that is the case, I'm not saying do every one, but perhaps the frontispiece might be a little bit dirtier. Then you would just ensure that you keep the spine and the front cover at a 90-degree angle, so you're not overstretching it. And again, you just follow the same fan shape to dust the book. So you're taking all of the dust out and away from the book. So that is dusting a book. You can also wrap it in acid-free tissue paper. And I have some here. And again, you don't need to fully parcel it. You might just want to interleave it, fold it over once. And then you can take the next one, interleave that, and then add the next one on. And that's just to prevent it getting any dustier, because you don't necessarily know where these things are going to be stored. But you don't want to fully wrap them up as though they're a birthday present or something like that. Then you want to pack them in a lined and labelled crate. So just to illustrate how to line a crate, I think that the tissue paper I have may not be big enough to demonstrate this as fully as possible. But what you want to do is to have tissue paper on all 4 sides. Yeah, so it's definitely too small, but that's okay. It will illustrate the point, I think. And you never know in an emergency what you actually have to work with, so you do have to make do and mend, which is why I think this is quite a good exercise. So you ensure that all 4 edges, all 4 sides of the crate are covered, and that you've got plenty of overhang on the sides, and that obviously you ensure that the bottom is covered. And then when you place your books inside, you will be packing them, you can pack them flat and with the spine to the foredge, so like this, so spine to the foredge. And then when your box is filled to a weight that you can carry, then you fold all the flaps over, and then that keeps them inside in a nice neat package. And also, if you've got any voids, you can fill that with more tissue paper, possibly. So you can make tissue paper puffs, which are done by, well, there are several different ways of doing this, but my way is done by folding in a corner, folding in a corner, folding in a corner, folding in a corner, and then scrunching the edges, and you get a neat little pad. So that's a donut or a pad, very small one. Normally they're bigger than that. But also you can use things like nylon net to fill in those voids as well, and that just helps the books to stop from moving around.